wakati mu mbeera nga gavumenti ya America etaddewo embeera ku gavumenti ya Mwami Yoweri Kaguta Tibahabulwa, mutabani we General Muhoozi Kainerugaba mu kwagala okweyambulula omuguwa n'okulaga nti ye ali ttiimu America, yandibanga yayongedde okuleetera kitaawe eminoko okuva mu ggwanga erya Iran. Wetwogerera amawulire okuva mu ggwanga eryo gongedde nate okulaga nga aba Iran bwe bali abanyiivu ebitagambika, era nga wetwogerera bakaawu ku bigambo ebyayogeddwa General Muhoozi Kainerugaba ng'ayita ku mikutu gye emigatta abantu. Amawulire ago ngenda kubeera nga kuwa mu butambi obeere ng'ate ogw'otabuliro. Bano balabudde nti bw'abanga awulira nti Uganda nnene nnyo era Uganda ye empire ya Africa, then bamuwadde ebbanga ttono nnyo okulabika nti ebigambo bye yayogedde abijjawo. Ekitali ekyo agenda kulaba ekinaava mu mpale y'ebiraka. Nakyogerako nti si buli kimu kyonna kyonna ekifulumye nti olina okukyogerako. Toli entitled kwogera ku buli kimu kyonna ekiba kitambula mu ggwanga oba ne mawanga gatwetoolodde, naddala ng'oli mu kifo oba position ennene mu ggwanga ng'ey'okuduumira amagye, kuba ebigambo ebitera okuva mu bachief oba mu baduumira amagye ag'amawanga ag'enjawulo bitera okubeera ebigambo ebitwalibwa ng'ebitali bya lubalaato, ebitali bya lwali. Kyannaku nnyo nti wano waffe Uganda aduumira eggye lyaffe, engeri gye kiri nti ebintu amanyi nti byali biteeketeeke okuduumira amagye tekwali kwa kutuuyanira, ye amala gakola byayagadde mu budde mwayagalidde. Yandibanga yabadde ayagala kutudivertinga kutujja ku mulamwa ku bigambo Robert Kyagulanyi Bobi Wine wetwogerera byayogera mu ggwanga eri America, kubanga yakoogera ne bannamawulire abawerako okuva lwe yatindigga olugendo lwe n'agenda mu kibuga Washington, District of Columbia mu ggwanga eri America. Era nga nakigambako gwe abadde nga gyatugoberera okuva emabega nti tewaliiwo bigambo birungi bigenda kuva mu meeting ya Robert Kyagulanyi nga bigenda eri gavumenti eno ya Mwami Tibahabulwa. Ejjo mwategedde ebyavudde mu Interreligious Council byayogera mu maka ga Bobi Wine, buli Munnayuganda n'awuniikirira. Abaavaayo mu kamera ne boogera birala bye baali boogedde behind the curtain nga byawukana ku ebyo bye baayogera mu kamera. Kati otwogerera General Muhoozi Kainerugaba yandibanga ye yatuleetedde dda eminoko wane Uganda, yandibanga yaleetedde dda kitaawe emitawaana. I can tell you frankly nti tewali kigambo kyogerwa mutabani wa Mwami Yoweri Kaguta Tibahabulwa kigatta ku gavumenti ya kitaawe. Tekiriiwo kuva 2022. Ye munnange abadde nga gy'ateeka ebigambo ku mikutu gy'emigatta bantu, n'atuuka okukangakanga gavumenti ya America, n'akangakanga gavumenti ya Kenya, n'akangakanga gavumenti ya Congo n'amawanga mangi agatwetoolodde, nga gy'alaganga UPDF bwe liri eggye ery'obwannaggwano. Tewali agaanye era tewali awakanye nti UPDF gye ly'amaanyi, naye ate ojjukiranga nnyo obutaggula ntalo oba lutalo lwa mayinja nga weebaka mu birawuli. UPDF wetwogerera kati eri matiga, kubanga amawanga oba amagye g'amawanga agatwetoolodde mangi gagyinako akakuku. Yeeyina olutalo ku ggye lya Congo kubeeyambako M23 ne RDF. Yeeyina olutalo ku ggye ery'Abaganda baffe Abanwel mu Juba wali, era nga mukimanyina bulungi nti amawanga mangi UPDF gye yolekedde okukola mission agagyinako akakuku. Era wetwogerera I can authoritatively confirm nti eggye liri vulnerable, eggye liri mu katu oba mu katyabaga, nti ebigambo byonna ebiva mu komanda w'eggye eryo bibeera bya bulabe nnyo, naddala nga birina omuntu gwe bikuba. ebigambo bibibeera bya bulabe nnyo. Weewaawo yandibanga bambi yeeyagadde kutudaivatinga kutuvuga ku biriwo tubiveeko, naye ate yayongedde kuleeta miteeru eri gavumenti ya kitaawe. Baalugera nti ekuba omunaku tekya, naye n'ennaku eri ewa mwami Yoweri Kaguta tibahabulwa terojjeka. Ng'oggyeko bino ebiriwo leero nti alina pressure okuva mu international community emuteereddwako olw'ebigambo bya mutabani we, ate ne Bobi Wine tamuleka kuwetaaya. Kubanga ne leero we bukeeredde ng'olwedde Bobi Wine alina interview kwali. Mu interview eno talina bigambo biwoomu byayogedde ku mwami tibahabulwa n'abamwetoolodde. Enda kubeera nga njikuwa gye bujjakaawo. Naye njagala tandike n'obutambi buno bubiri. Headline yeggulire ate tufune ne reply okuva mu bamu ku bantu mu Iran. Kiki boogera oba reaction yaabwe ku bigambo ebya General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Babyogerako ki? Era Uganda ebeeyolekedde kadde kafaanana katya bwebanga bye bino ebigambo ebyogerwa ku komanda w'amagye gaffe aga Uganda. Bye bino ebibaawo bwabeerawo amaanyi amangi agateereddwa mu mikono gy'abantu abakyamu oba abatali batuufu. Era kumpi buli dictator yenna agudde olugendo lwe lubaamu omukono munene nnyo ogw'omwana we oba ogwa mutabani we, naddala nga amuwadde obukulu mu kifo kyonna mu gavumenti ye. Nja kuwa ekyokulabirako mutabani wa Kano Mwama Gaddafi, omuto nno w'emyaka 21, alina effujjo lye yakola era n'avaayo n'akudaalira abantu ba Libya n'abalaga nti ye ne kitaawe tewali muntu yenna alina authority over them, kubanga ye yali komanda w'amagye. Era yabalaga nti nga kitaawe waali omuntu yenna omwetefutefu okumweŋŋanga alina kusooka kweŋŋanga ye nga tanneŋŋanga kitaawe. Yali mutabani kubanga yali komanda w'amagye. Oyo yayitiraawo kagenderere ng'omukadde akogga. Kaneme kutwala wala nkuleeteko mu famire ya Bashar ebadde ekulembera eggwanga erya Syria. Mutabani we ono abaddeko bamuwanika kalabba. Yalina akabinja akamukuuma nga kaali kamanyikiddwa nga Tiger. Kabinja ako kaali kamaanyi nnyo naye tuwewuunya. Kaali luddawe bamuwanikira ku kalabba ka crane, akabinja ka Tiger. Emmundu eno ekupika n'ekuwaga ng'okyagirina ng'okyalina n'abakwetoolodde. Naye njagala kano nkabalekere mwenga abali mu bitongole by'okwerinda. Bwe mubanga ddala muyina amagye ngera muyina amamundu, bwe nabadde mpuliriza bulungi ebigambo bwe mwagala bangi Kyagulanyi yagambye nti abamu ku baamuyamba ofuluma baali banene mu bitongole by'okwerinda. Kati njagala gwe weebuuze, aduumira naawe amuddiridde mwenna muli ku peegi y'emu. Bwe mutuula ku round table mwenna mubirivingira mu nteekateeka ey'omwana ne taata, oba muyinamu mentality ey'enjawulo oba eyawukana? Kati naago oba ebigambo ebyo bibabeerera ekyokulabirako mmwe abali waggulu mu bitongole bino ebyokwerinda. Bwe bimala okubabeerera ekyokulabirako mubifuniremu ekyokuyiga. Mwabeetenda okubeera ne military intelligence. Bw'abanga avuganya gavumenti yammwe yabitinga military intelligence yammwe, mwali badde mufuna okweyanukula mu mitima ne mumanya nti nno gavumenti teriiwo. Ne mukitegeera nti byonna bye mwogera birina okubeera nga bibale, birina okuba calculated nga temunaba bifulumya. Naddala mmwe abali waggulu, kubanga bonna tubalabyeko nga balina obubinja obunene bwe baduumira era obubakuuma. But at the end of the day tewali dictator yenna yali awanguddeko revolution. Taliiyo mu byafaayo byonna, kebere Africa, Asia oba Europe. Teriiyo dictator yali awanguddeko byafaayo. Taliiyo, tebakikulimba nti yali awanguddeko revolution. Kati katumala owulira Iran. Bw'obanga okyalina emitawana n'amanga agatwetoolodde, ng'olina emitawana n'amanga g'obadde okolagana nabo mu bya trade, military, ebyobulamu n'ebirala, lwaki ate oba oyongera emitawaana ku mitawaana? Mu njogera ennyangu, Iran, 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 buli lunaku olukya emiteeru gye yunanju ya mwami tibahabulwa. Nina interview ya Bobi Wine gye ngenda okuba ku nkomerero ya video eno. Naye njagala tutandikire mu butambi buno tumale okuwulira eggulire lino lyogera ki. Yandibanga omukulu yayagadde okukola headline, naye headline kuki? Know when to crack a joke and when not to crack a joke, and who to crack a joke with at what time. Manyani gwoyina okubirako olwali, naddira oyina omukubirako olwali. Wetwogerera buno obudde ne wowe oyagala okulaga nti oli tiimu Amerika, weewala Amerika byekuteekerateekera. Oyina okubala ebigambo byo n'obigattagatta bulungi, nga we bigenda okutuula tebigenda ku affectinga ggwanga lyo, naddala ng'oli mu position eya command. Kati wulira bino.
Uganda's Chief of Defence Forces, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, suggested that Uganda could enter the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran in support of Israel. His remarks come amid raging regional tensions following recent US and Israeli strikes on Iran and subsequent retaliatory attacks. General Muhoozi, who is also the son of Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, said on X, and I quote, "We want the war in West Asia to end now. The world is tired of it. But any talk of destroying or defeating Israel will bring us into the war on the side of Israel."
Muhoozi Kainerugaba from Uganda. Listen to me carefully now. You think you can attack Iran while we are in Africa? Do you think you can attack our people in Middle East while we are in Africa? Listen to me very carefully. You are going to withdraw every statement you done it for Israel. You are going to withdraw every statement you support Israel in Africa. Africa is not your playground, my friend. Iran is fighting for justice right now. Iran defending justice right now. Iran freeing the world from injustice right now. Africa has been colonized last 120 years. And you, a slave of Israel, and want to come attack the warriors of humanity.
Tewali kyenja kwongera kuggulira eryo yadde n'akatono. I will not give my opinion. Kuba byonna bye naaliyogedde mbyogedde mu dakiika 10 nga nyanjula vidiyo eno. Amaanyi amemanye gamala ebitembuga. Abaganda baalugera era be bamu nti ndikirya jjo baakimutikka. Nteekateeka kimu abakulu abali mu gavumenti gye mulina. Nkiddamu, nteekateeka kimu abakulu abali mu gavumenti gye mulina okweŋŋanga obutalotalo obumbadde mujjanga muggulawo ku mawanga ag'enjawulo. Mwe mwerabanga mmwe mulina ebyenjawulo kira abalala oba. A question kanjireke ng'erengejja mu bbanga. Kye muba mumanya tewali kalungi. Njagala batwalyawo mu interview omwagala bangi Kyagulanyi. Nate ng'eno yagikoledde mu ggwanga eri Amerika. Ebigambo bye byayogedde katumale okubifuna byenjofundikira nabyo. Bu video njagala bakoleranga bumpimpi okuwa omwaganya buli omu newankubadde nga kadata kakawerege nga ddya lya bukadde okubeera ng'ate ayotabuliro program paka kugimalako. Program ene wagidwa Sheikh Ashraf omulombi w'edduwa. Munonyeeko ku namba yo eri awo gwe naine embeera muyite etali nnungi. Akulombera eddwa embeera ejja kubeera ng'ate efuuka malidaadi. Temwerabira gwe wenna nga olina omukolo ogwa buli kika, giyite birthday, wedding, introduction, oyingira nnyumba yo mpya, ebikwatagana ne decoration, ebikwatagana ne cake. Bannaffe abali awo waggulu aba Blessed Hope Bridals baga nti bakikolerako ku bbeeyi ey'okukaanya ate nga ntono ddala. Banoonyeko bakutimbira omukolo gwo, bakukolere cake, decoration waabwe ali on point. Tebakoma okubakola ne make-up ku bagole oba oli awo n'ababawerekerako banoonyeko. Imagine a package ogenda funa tent, ofune entebe, ofune decoration, ofune cake ng'evudde mu bannaffe abo, kijja kuba kya muwendo nnyo nnyini ddala. Kati nno baganda bange, kambatwalirewo butereevu mu katambi kano, kuba n'alime wagunda ate anannyuka. Tetujja kwererejja katuyite mu byangu ng'abawerekera bajja baffe, tulabike nga ne kino tukijja mu ddiiro. Abankuumire Lugaba, kambalekere ebigambo by'omukulu Bobi Wine, mweraba.
Here, Robert Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine, who is also a former member of parliament, so he's also a legislator. How are you doing, Robert? Bobi Wine.
I'm all right, my brother. Pleasure speaking to you.
Same here, same here. So you are here in Washington. What is your main aim of coming here in Washington, to Washington?
Well, I left my country on a run for my life. As you might have seen that my house was raided, my wife assaulted, and my family members also tortured because there was an order to kill me by the Chief of Defense Forces, who also happens to be the son of Uganda 40-year-old dictator General Yoweri Museveni. So I left my country running for my life. However, I'm also in the United States to try engage with various leaders, various personalities, senators, and fellow Ugandans as well. With the fellow Ugandans and leaders, I'm trying to galvanize the forces of change that are struggling to change our country back home. But with the leaders and administration in Washington, I'm trying to persuade them to change their policy of supporting the dictatorship back home. You will notice that the Ugandan dictatorship, like many other dictatorships in Africa, have their lifeline in Washington and in Europe because they are funded by America and the Western world. So we are trying to cut that life link to ensure that they are not funded to oppress the people of Uganda and Africa.
I heard you say that you are not going to negotiate your freedom away. What does that mean?
I thought I spoke it in clear terms. I am not going to negotiate my freedom or my rights, because no sane person negotiates that. My rights are inherent according to the Constitution of Uganda, and they are not granted by the state, and neither is my freedom. And this is to make it clear that I'm not a kind of person that rejects any negotiation. No, I believe in dialogue, but in transparent and principled dialogue, no transactional.
Are you ready to negotiate with President Museveni and his government to ensure that there's peace and that Ugandans will live in peace? Are you ready to have negotiations with the government?
I thought I answered that question before you asked it. But however, I must remind you that our forefathers, and to quote the great Nelson Mandela, taught us that you cannot put your boot on my neck and then say we should negotiate. No, it's only free men that negotiate.
So let me ask you, because last time I heard some Ugandans say that you and President Museveni basically have a passion for Uganda. He wanted a change. He took guns. He went to the bush and came to power by the barrel of the gun. You want change as well. So the change mandate, or the change that you seek, both of you are on the same playing field. How do you respond to such comparison between you and President Museveni in terms of wanting change to happen in Uganda?
I would definitely not dismiss the fact that once upon a time General Museveni loved, or is seen to have loved, his country. At my age, he was saying exactly what I'm saying, and probably even more eloquent. But as we've been taught by history that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, General Museveni said that Africa's problem in general, and Uganda in particular, are the leaders that overstay in power. He said this 40 years ago. Unfortunately, 40 years later, he's still in power. When he was pursuing change, he picked up guns, and more than 500,000 Ugandans died in his pursuit of what he called change. Unfortunately, 40 years down the road, we realized that this blood was shed in vain. I'm passionate about change, but I'm also aware that life matters. the difference between us is that he believes in violence and we don't believe in violence, because we have seen what violence does. Violence, besides breeding more violence, it creates a sense of entitlement where those that cause change through violence always feel like they own and they're entitled. And this is what has shown again and again and again from the times of Robert Mugabe and now Mnangagwa and to the times of Yoweri Museveni. So while we pursue change, we believe that non-violence is stronger than violence, and that was why we chose to pursue that line.
Now, in your earlier submission, you talked about the fact that you had to run away from the country due to your life being threatened or your life being in danger. But some people are questioning that because they said you said your life was in danger, but you were constantly on social media platforms videotaping yourself talking in some areas or in some parts of Uganda before leaving, and that they said this is just a mere publicity stunt just to demonize the country and make the president unpopular among Ugandans, and that you lost the election fair and square. You are just trying to blackmail the government using some of these videos that you are making just to undercut the international support the government has. What say you?
By the fact that we are communicating virtually using the internet, it makes me suppose that you have been watching the tweets of the Chief of Defense Forces in Uganda, who is also the son of General Museveni, who has publicly confessed to killing 24 members of my party and saying that I should be the 25th dead body. I'm sure you have seen him promise and indeed fulfilling the promise of abducting my people, beginning with my bodyguard, who was abducted and tortured under his basement, and he did this live on social media. I am sure you are aware that my house was raided on the 16th of January, just one day after the election, and I had to run away from my home. I am sure that you have seen that on the 25th of January, again, my house was raided and my wife beaten so bad that she ended up in hospital and she had to escape from the hospital bed to sneak out of the country. I am sure you have seen that. And anybody that calls this a publicity stunt, I am not sure what to call this. My home was taken over and occupied by the military until yesterday, when out of shame and out of international pressure, they had to leave my country. Now, if raiding, torturing my family, and occupying my house after ramshackling it is a publicity stunt, I don't know, is it my publicity stunt or the publicity stunt of the Ugandan military? I ran out of the country. I ran out of my house, but I was able, just like I was able to outsmart and beat the Ugandan military, which had surrounded my house, to leave my house. I was able to beat them to close to 2 months when I was within the country. But I had, like I mentioned, that I ran out of my house and was in hiding to be sure that I communicate to the world. I'm sure if I stayed, I would either be dead or completely tortured. I would not be able to communicate to the world. But ever since I left, I've been able to offer leadership to the forces of change. And indeed, I'm able to communicate to the world like I'm doing now. So if me being able to communicate to the world and expose the atrocities of the Ugandan regime is a publicity stunt, then I don't think that's a bad publicity stunt, is it?
Well, some people are accusing you of mudding or dirtying up the image of Uganda as a partner to Western countries to bring stability and peace and political peace in the East Africa region, and that by constantly bombarding the international community with what they say fake news of human rights violations and harassment is basically mudding and dirtying the international image of Uganda, basically preventing people from coming to invest in Uganda there.
Yeah, but if there's anything or anybody that is denting the image of the country, those are the atrocities that are being done in our country. You know, where the actions of Adolf Hitler the ones denting the image of Germany then, or those that exposed it. It's very unfortunate that we seem to, we keep having gaslighting, where the victim is demonized while the culprit is trying to play innocent. You know, the tortures, the extrajudicial murders that are going on in Uganda are not, you know, orchestrated by me, but by the regime. On the 18th and 19th of November 2020, there was a massacre in the country. I did not kill those people. The Ugandan government killed those people. We went into an election which you and all the world saw turned into a military operation. I did not torture the Ugandans. I did not kill the Ugandans. The Ugandan regime killed the Ugandans. The Electoral Commission gave me a security detail, but at the end of the campaign, the entire security detail that was given to me was arrested, and now they are detained just because they did not spy on me. I did not do that. The regime did that. As we speak right now, my personal assistant called Sheriff Naja had his house raided and his wife abducted. The wife of Sheriff Naja is now missing for more than 2 weeks. I did not abduct her. The Ugandan military abducted her, and this happened on camera, and we showed it to the world. Now the blame does not go to me. The blame goes to those that instead that are charged with the duty and mandate of guarding and protecting Ugandans, but instead abducting them and torturing them. If the Ugandan regime wants a good image for the country, let them respect human rights. Let them respect democracy. Let them respect the rule of law.
You talked about the election. Some people are wondering whether you legitimately won the election as you claim, because they argue if you have evidence of election, you know, mismanagement, irregularities, or rigging like you claim, where is the evidence? They argue to present it before the court of law, to argue your case in court, rather than just saying that the elections were rigged without providing any empirical proof to back up your allegation, they argue. What do you say to such critics?
We had a general election on the 15th of January 2026, but by the 14th of January, more than 400 leaders of my party had been abducted and they were missing. These include 2 of my deputy presidents, my deputy president of Northern Uganda and Western Uganda, who are women. They were abducted and held in a military barracks in Kasenyi, commanded by General Museveni's son, Muhoozi, who is the head of the security forces. They were missing for 2 weeks until they resurfaced again, and they told their ordeal to the world. On the day of election, 15th of January, my deputy president for the Buganda region, the most populous region, had his house raided, and 10 people were shot and killed in his house. Let me say this again. 10 people were shot and killed in the military, 8 of whom were women. They were killed by Ugandan military and the police. He was later picked up and is in prison. Many others were picked up. Majority of our election observers and election agents were picked, and many of them are still missing, while others were kept in prison for various days and later on freed without no charge. So, was that an election? In my opinion, and I believe in the opinion of any sane person, was not an election but a military operation.
So let me ask you this question, because some Ugandans have been telling me that, like your former colleague, Dr. Chisa Besigye, who is in jail right now, he left the FDC, handed over to somebody, endorsed somebody to run as a presidential candidate. They are wondering if the leadership you provide will also get you there to support somebody else to peacefully contest against the government, as they argue, or the ruling National Resistance Movement, NRM. They argue if you will have that capacity to see Uganda as bigger than yourself, to support somebody else, because they argue that you have fallen out with a lot of people who have capacity, who you believe could equally be have that capacity to run as presidential candidate of the National Unity Platform, your party, NUP. What say you?
Now, Peter, I am glad First of all, you seem to be in a rush to sweep me off the matters that are concerning and are pertinent right now. But I'm very glad you mentioned Dr. Kizza Besigye. Dr. Kizza Besigye is a veteran political leader who was close to 2 years ago abducted from Kenya by the Ugandan regime and illegally brought to Uganda, charged illegally in a military court, and now he continues to be in prison. So that should further show you the kind of the regime that you seem very, very eager to protect or have its atrocities swept under the under the carpet.
No, I'm not sweeping.
When I was showing up, yeah, I didn't know. I was not dying to be president. My desire is to have a free country, to have a country that works for everybody. We have a dictatorship. We have a president that has been in power for 40 years and counting. And that is our urgent fight right now. Our fight is to see democracy in our lifetime. Our fight is to have an election where people have the right to vote, where a vote counts. We are fighting for a vote right now.
My question is, what are you willing to do? You are talking about the fight for democracy, peace, and the respect of human rights. The question I'm asking is, what are you willing to do in your capacity, peacefully, to see these enumerations actualize in Uganda?
Everything. I am willing to do everything moral and constitutional to see a free, peaceful, and democratic Uganda. That is my dream. I'm a firm believer in democracy. And I must tell you that I'm leading a generation that is full of capable, talented, and qualified young people. Which young people we strongly believe will be able to usher our country to greater heights.
You called for sanctions to be placed on certain people in Uganda, targeted sanctions as you call them. How feasible is this? And do you think the people you are having negotiations with will impose those sanctions that you seek?
Well, the people that I'm talking to, not having negotiations with, but talking to, are the ones that have funded the regime, that have supported the regime for the last 40 years. You'll notice that for a long time, the Ugandan regime has been receiving up to $1 billion US in terms of aid. That is America alone. And there's also the UK and the the UK and the European Union. These are people that profess values of democracy, of human rights, and the rule of law. Our demand is one: stop funding our oppression. We are not asking them to come and save us. No, we are telling them that we can fight for ourselves because our fight is in Uganda. But we cannot fight against $1 billion US a year. We cannot fight against French guns. We cannot fight against the pounds that are flowing into Uganda. We are only asking them to tag the aid that they give to the regime of Uganda to the values, to condition it to democracy and human rights. And I've said it many times that the standard of human rights in Uganda should be the same in Europe. I have not seen European or American leaders standing shoulder to shoulder with European dictators like Lukashenko of Belarus. So we are asking them to treat Africa at the same level of democracy and human rights like they do to the rest of the world.
With this fight that you've taken upon yourself and, rallying the young people of Uganda, what do you think are the prospects of success that you see on the ground so far?
If you have been following what's in Uganda, I'm sure you have seen how massively the people of Uganda, especially the young people, are yearning for change. When we went into this election, we were not oblivious that we are under a military regime. But we went in with a belief that even if the opportunity and the possibility of change is 1%, it is worth the fight. And indeed, the world saw the young and the old, the rich and poor showing up to express desire for change. we are confident that it will happen. We always look back in history. Mandela taught us that it always seems impossible until it's done. We have seen examples of countries that had dictators that were more funded and were more able and had stronger armies, like Sudan, like Egypt. But they fell under the unwavering pressure of the people. And we know that the regime, the dictatorship in Uganda will fall. There's never a rise and rise of a dictator. No, it is always the rise and fall. And therefore, I can guarantee you that it will never be the rise and rise of General Museveni. No, there was the rise and now there is the decline, which will ultimately become the fall of General Museveni.
Talking about a decline, what do you mean a decline? Because the last time I checked, the recent elections, showed that the President Yoweri Museveni got up close to about 70% or so. So what is the decline? Explain to me what the decline about me.
Probably the last time you checked, you did not check right. All right? We have an electoral commission that it is completely in the hands of the regime. An electoral commission that is not going to look at what the people vote, at what the people say at the polling stations. I'm sure you are aware that the internet was switched off 2 days to the election. You've not seen that in your country. It happened in Uganda. I'm sure you have seen the military completely taking over the election. And what came out of the polling stations is not what was declared by Mr. Byabakama, the electoral commissioner, the head of the electoral commission, who is a Museveni puppet. That is not what it did, what happened. So I'll tell you that what you saw declared was just, a declaration of the military. He was just ordered to declare what was declared. I'll tell you that majority of the members of parliament in our party won on all polling stations in the capital city. I'll give an example of Alex Waiswa Mufumbiro, of David Lewis Rubongoya, and others that won on all polling stations, but they were orders from the regime about who should be declared and who should not be declared. So what was declared by the Electoral Commission is completely fake, is completely wrong, and does not in any way reflect the will of the people of Uganda.